Unfortunately, when your communication is poor, everything else falls to the ground. So I dare say that communication is the greatest challenge in marriage. The greatest challenge in marriage is communication. My name is Kunle Ologe, marriage counselor and founder of the Marriage Seal Academy, and I'm here to talk to you about that big problem in marriage called communication. So there are three major issues in marriage: communication, finance, then sex. Of these three, the most important one is communication. And the one that has so much issues in marriage is communication. Unfortunately, when your communication is poor, everything else falls to the ground. So I dare say that communication is the greatest challenge. Now, what are some of the things that are wrong in marriages when it comes to communication? Let's look at a few of them. One that always comes to my front burner as a marriage counselor is husbands being silent. So I always get a lot of wives saying that their husbands are silent, their husbands are not talking, their husbands are talking to their phone, they're talking to their friends, but they're not talking to them. And that can be a very big problem in marriage. So you have a marriage where you have a wife who is frustrated because her husband is just not talking to her. Funny enough, some of the husbands will talk very well when they're at work, they'll talk very well when they're with friends, but when they get home, they suddenly become deaf and dumb. That is a very frustrating thing in marriage. Let's look at another one. Another communication problem in marriage is aggressive wives. So you have wives that are aggressive, they kind of put out their points in aggressive mode. So it's like they're shouting on the husbands. So husbands have complaints to me to say, look, my wife is always shouting on me. She's aggressive. So when she's talking, I just tune off, because at the point in time, all I just hear is la, 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 la. Because I've tuned off, she's shouting, she's screaming on me. You even hear some men saying she's reminding me of my mother. A third communication problem in marriage is secrets being kept. So when secrets are being kept, that is a problem in marriage. So you expect your spouse to be able to tell you everything. You don't expect to find out things that are about your spouse or something related to your spouse. You don't expect to find that out. However, in some marriages, you have a lot of secrets, and that is a big problem in communication. So secrets are kept, and one person is feeling that, look, I can't trust this person because I keep finding out things that are not true. That's a third problem in communication. A fourth problem is when spouses criticize each other. I'm talking about destructive criticism. There's constructive criticism, there's destructive criticism. So you have a situation where every time somebody does something wrong, his spouse or her spouse they are criticizing in a very, very derogatory way. And that can really be very, very hurtful. So I've had people come to me to say, you know what, my problem is that when I even make a mistake at home, my wife is always telling me off, treating me like I am not intelligent, treating me like I'm not schooled. My husband talks to me, corrects me in a way that is not really nice. Criticizes me on every single thing I do. Some of them I now ask, is it really every single thing? And we're going to get to that. Number 6 is closely related to that, and that is using derogatory language. In some marriages, that is very, very common. And this is called emotional abuse, truly. So where you see one spouse always using wrong, derogatory languages, in fact, unprintable things. And that can be a big challenge in marriage because it looks like emotional abuse. No, it doesn't look like. It's actually emotional abuse. Of course, you now also have this point of spouses not listening to each other. So they listen to respond. They don't listen to understand. Do you have that challenge in your marriage where your spouse is just always responding and you are wondering, did you hear what I just said? And it looks like you didn't hear what I just said. Now that is also a challenge in marriage. An 8th challenge in marriage is defensive conversations. So for some of you, the challenge is that every time you have a conversation with your spouse goes defensive. So you're never able to resolve anything because he or she is always trying to prove why he or she is not wrong. Now that can be very annoying, and that's a big communication problem. Let's look at the 9th communication problem I have here, and that is speaking in superlatives. This one, a lot of people do this and they don't really know that there's a problem with it. So where you tell your spouse, you are always doing this, you will never do this. And your spouse is wondering, why are you using those words always? Why are you using the words never? Are you saying that I've never done this? And then the spouse will now say, no, that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to say you do it many times. So if it's many times, say many times. When you use superlatives like always, never, those extreme superlatives, that kind of paints your spouse in a bad picture and it puts a lot of distaste in your spouse's mouth. And then finally, number 10 is that communication problem of always having transactional conversations and no intimate conversations. So you see people complaining that at home, yes, we talk. I talk with my husband, I talk with my wife, but our conversations are always transactional. We're always saying, talking about how to pay children's school fees, talking about how to arrange the house, talking about how to take a journey, so we're never talking about each other. We're never talking about the things we care about. We're never talking about, hey, can we sit down and just listen to music together and just have fun? We're never talking about, oh, I've not heard you say I love you. I mean, I really love to hear you say that. So when those things are missing, it just becomes transactional and you have no intimacy in it. Now, these are just some of the many communication problems that you have in marriage. And if these things are not tackled, that is what eventually causes marriages to break up. As a marriage counselor of over 13 years, I've seen many marriages that have come to my table, and I find out at the end of the day that the problem really was that they never knew how to communicate. When it comes to communication, there is what to communicate, there is when to communicate, there is how to communicate. There's a way you communicate with your spouse that will make your spouse feel comfortable and okay with the communication. There's another way you communicate with your spouse that your spouse will start finding issues in what you are saying because of the attitude to communication. You must learn how to communicate. So communication is not innate. You don't become an effective communicator by chance. You become an effective communicator by learning, especially in marriage. So you must learn how to communicate. Oh, when I got married, one of the first things my wife told me was that you don't know how to communicate. And I was wondering, what do you mean I don't know how to communicate? And she would say, you communicate well outside, but you're not communicating with me. I eventually found out that some of the problem was that I was having transactional communications and the intimate communications were not there. And so I had to change. But I didn't change just by wishing that I would change. We started taking classes, started reading books on communication, started doing courses on communication. And today I can say that our communication is top notch, but it didn't come by chance. The good things in marriage don't come by chance. They come by active learning and implementation of the things that you have learned. So don't think that you're going to just immediately begin to communicate better with your spouse just because you heard the problems of communication today. It doesn't work that way. There's a process. You need to unlearn a lot of things that you knew about communication before and relearn new things that help you to become an effective communicator. That way, the conversations you have in marriage will be better, they'll be sweeter, they'll be exciting. The boredom that you think you have in your marriage will go away because you have that person who is beside you that you can actually talk to, share things with, and you will be very, very happy for it. And that's why if you're listening to me right now, you should have registered for the course Improving Communication in Marriage. It's a 2-day course that we do once every year. And this year we're doing it in the month of February. From the 19th to the 20th of February, we're going to be handling that course, Improving Communication in Marriage. And yours truly will be delivering that course to you. It's going to be online, so you can watch it from anywhere in the world. And of course, if you have registered to be a participant of that course, you will get replays of that course. So even if you can't catch up with the live course, then you can replay the course. And even if you caught up with the live course, you can still have that replay over and over again to buttress the really serious points that you need in your marriage. Now, here's the good thing. We have been doing the early bird registration. So the early bird registration, you get to pay just 15,000 naira instead of 20,000 naira. But the early bird registration ends on the 31st of January. That's just a few days away. So you want to quickly catch up and pay that because immediately it's the 1st of February, it reverts back to 20,000 naira. Well, I assure you, still get the same result whether you pay 15 or 20, as long as you come, you learn, and you implement. My name is Kunle Ologe, marriage counselor, founder of the Marriage Seal Academy, and I look forward to having you there at the course where people, marriages are transformed. See you there. Please enjoy.